take the 69th one. It comes as Ishana Pranada Prano Jeshta Shrestha Prajapatih. Prajapati, or one who is the Lord of all being. Praja means people. In general, Praja may be taken to mean all living beings. Lord Vishnu is the Prabhu, or the Lord of all living beings. He creates them, he sustains them, he also destroys them. All living beings are his children. He looks after them like a father. He ordains them. He rules over their destinies, and he is the Lord of all living beings. It's a very, very interesting name that, a very human, I'll call societal thing is taken as a name here, right? In a societal thing is where the structure of a king comes. And in the importance of a king is very sweetly narrated in the very place where Vishnu Sahasranama is also introduced to us, brought forth by Bhishma in what is called as the Anushasana Parva, meaning how to rule over. Anushasana is to preside over your kingdom, in which the question that is asked is, I am a human and I have two hands, same two lungs through which I breathe, same two eyes with which I see, like any other else who are humans. What is so special about a king, and why do you even need a king, comes the question. And the answer is even more beautiful, of saying, how did the king even come into place? And that's even beautiful. And it comes from Lord Vishnu himself. So Vishnu has had many kids. He has had Brahma to preside over the worldly affairs of all the living beings that he has created as the preceptor, who would dictate the rights and wrongs, give them a book of knowledge as, or a user manual of what your living life should be. So he creates a 1,000-chapter book. Brahma, as part of creation, what happens is also the user manual is created. A product of humanity is created, and a user manual of all those Vedas also is created, of 1,000 chapters. And those 1,000 chapters are edited to become 700 chapters. And again, they're edited and they bring it into more concise 36 chapters. And from there on, they need someone to preside over on all living beings. So Lord Vishnu himself brings forth his son and installs him as the king. And the narration is so beautiful because it emphasizes how a degree of a king or a political leader, the emphasis is given very heavily, in which I think first there are many kings that he puts, and each one uh, takes either sannyas, saying, I don't want the kingdom. He leaves the kingdom, he goes away. And again, Vishnu comes and bestows one more of his sons. And I think Kardama is the other name I recall. And Kardama falls victim to his own passions, and he doesn't preside over the kingdom or the stately affairs that are required to preside over a kingdom. And then, of course, he brings in Prutu. Prutu brings forth peace for 300 years, is what is said. Of course, one, he might have lived 300 years, could be argument, but he did things that brought prosperity for 300 years, and which is where the name Prithvi was given, because his decisions brought forth peace for all across the world. So that's how the king came into being. And then goes, okay, what should be the duty of the king? And in the same Shanti Parva, the Anushasana Parva, where it comes in, it emphasizes the leader need for a leader even more, uh, how do I say, emphatically, where he provokes, saying, even Yudhishthira tells, I don't want the kingdom, you keep it, Krishna, and I'm leaving the kingdom. And he brings Vedavyasa himself to say, go, please counsel him. He cannot go away, saying, I don't want the kingdom. Every kingdom requires a king to rule over. And the Vyasa tells him a very beautiful verse, which goes as, Shatru Dharmo, what I think it goes as, Namundam, yeah. The Rajadandahi Rajendra. Shatru Dharmo na Mundanam. In a sense, it says you have to preside over the affairs of the kingdom, which is the Rajadanda, which is where you hold on to that stick and give the ruling, or talk about the sanctions that will happen when things are not adhering to the rule books of the kingdom, the Dharma Chakra that he is supposed to, as a king or a political leader, that you need to uphold for the well being of all persons in the society, and not mundanam, which means you can't shave your head and go off to the jungle. And he also counsels him about, you seeking peace. You need not get only by mundanam. You have to take the stately affairs, take charge of the kingdom, take charge of the treasury, and bring forth prosperity for everyone. And they counsel him about why he is a very capable leader. And one of the things that happens, in fact, even before the war, as to he goes on to tell him what should be the measure of a kingdom, right? What is a good kingdom is another question that is asked. But I think even before I get to that, we should even look back as to what happens even before this Anushasana Parva comes in, which is how should you go over the stately affairs. Um, Before that, the war has happened, and even before the war, there is peace parleys that are taking place, right? Where I think Sanjaya comes in as a peace parley, but he is also taking the message of war hidden inside the words he speaks, and Yudhishthira challenges him. And later, Krishna also goes back with another peace mission saying that, okay, they came it, let's also make an attempt. And the whole aesthetics of narration of that Mahabharata, I think, is beautiful, because as a peace missionary, he just doesn't go to the king, or the king to be, or the political leaders who need to be, the men of the household. He uh, also goes to Draupadi and talks to her, and as to, I'm going in a peace mission. What is your message? So overall, there's a lot of exchange that happens between Draupadi and Krishna there. More, of course, he's treated as a brother and sister relationship there. One of the exchanges that Krishna gives, again coming to the role of a king, right? Let's keep that in context. Is how do you measure, right? The good kingdom. So he says this, that this is Krishna telling to Draupadi when they talk about peace and talk about things that were done wrong to her. He goes on to say the honor of women is the real index of health of a nation. Honor of women is the real index of health of a nation. And that honor was not bestowed on you, because of which, immaterial of that war, that kingdom is doomed. Immaterial of my peace mission, this kingdom is doomed. So he says that and goes on a peace mission. But again, let's conclude back as to what happens what should be a real kingdom. So in which this is Bhishma telling Yudhishthira, part of his KT, right, knowledge transfer, to someone who has come out of jungle after 14 years and is trying to preside over a kingdom. And Bhishma tells him that a good kingdom is the one in which a woman or a girl who is fully decked with ornaments can walk in the middle of the night, unaccompanied by male persons. A good ruled kingdom is one in which a girl fully decked with ornaments can walk the streets in the middle of the night unaccompanied by male. So, which essentially means, as a kingdom, you need to do the social law, right? External law. But as a king, you need to demonstrate your moral law as well, right? That is where the king has to be present out there, or what we call in the corporate world as the voice at the top, right? So it's not just your talks, but it is also your behavior, your decor, how you present yourself anywhere you are going to go. And that instills that moral law. So, and that definition is where any thug is contained by the rule of the external law, the social law that he would have dictated, but also through his behavior of moral law as to how you are going to treat even a lonely woman. But there are beautifully aesthetic stories in which how those are violated, and those being the cause of a collapse of a kingdom. So we'll go to the next one, which is Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbho Bhuugarbho Madhavo Madhusudanaha. Hiranyagarbha, one who is the self of even Brahma. Hindu mythology says that Ishvara first created a golden egg. This golden egg is described in scriptures as the luminous globe that contained the whole universe, the entire Brahmanda, in a seminal form. Since the Lord created this golden egg, he is known as the Hiranyagarbha, or the womb of golden womb, one who has the golden womb. All beings are self indeed, but associated with a name and form. Since Brahma, the creator, was also a being, his self was Brahman or Vishnu, who is the Hiranyagarbha. So overall, I think in the earlier communion, we talked about the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, in which uh, it is very beautifully described as the spider through who is weaving his web, and that web comes from inside the spider, and after the web is woven, the spider goes and sits in the center. So that's what is taken even in the Hiranyagarbha context, is the universe came out of him, and now that it has come out of him very easy, he exists right inside that very universe, but also contains that universe. So comes into the Bhuugarbha, or one who has the world within himself, right? I think it summarizes the spider web analogy that was presented, which is Purusha Sukta says, Padosha Vishwa Bhutam. The entire universe is contained in just one pada, or one fourth of the Lord, one foot of the Lord. I think it's spelled differently. Bhu means the world. The world is contained in the Lord. Everything is contained in awareness. Nothing can exist outside awareness. Since the world is contained within the Lord, he is considered the verily the womb which contains the world. Therefore, he is known as Bhuugarbha.